Hello and good afternoon friends, welcome to CEC Live Lectures. Dear friends, today in this session we are going to talk on one of the interesting topics. You have often heard about computer security. So we are going to talk on computer security only, and this is an introductory lecture to the computer security. We believe that you are going to learn a lot from today's session, because we have once again with us in our studios for the very discussion in our studios, and we have with us Dr. Pavitra Bharadwaj. Dr. Pavitra Bharadwaj is Assistant Professor in the Department of Computer Sciences, Jesus and Mary College, University of Delhi. Dear friends, if you have any kind of questions regarding the topic which you are going to have in-depth knowledge right now, then you can call us right in the studio. You can contact us through our toll-free number. Our number is 1800-110-430. I repeat, our number is 1800-110-430. You are requested to call in the last 10 minutes of the lecture so that the lectures goes uninterrupted, and your queries are also resolved in the last 10 minutes. So let's welcome our guest, Dr. Pavitra Bharadwaj, and let's try to understand more and more on computer security. Hello ma'am, welcome to the lecture.
Thank you. Hello friends, today we are going to talk about a very interesting and very much talked about topic, that is security and computer security per se. You all are aware that all the assets need to be prevented from damage, from harm, or from any kind of destruction. For instance, say we take the assets like cash or maybe gold. So these assets need to be protected against theft, against any unauthorized person taking it. Therefore, we put in mechanisms to prevent any kind of damage occurring to the security of our assets. Therefore, what you do is you try to put your cash or your gold in a locker, or you keep it in a safe, you lock it, so that you can prevent any kind of threat or any kind of security breach to occur to it. Still, if a breach occurs, you try to detect what kind of breach has occurred, what kind of theft has occurred, and then you take some remedial action to overcome or to recover from the effects of the threat. So what we are trying here is that whenever we have any assets, we need to put them, we need to keep them secure, we need to prevent them from any kind of damage. So similarly, we have computer assets. A computer system is also a very important asset. When we say system, we mean it comprises of hardware, software, which will include the operating system and all the other softwares which are installed on the computer. We mean the network or any other access mechanisms, and also the people. So all these are the assets of a computer system which we need to protect. So in today's lecture, basically we will try and see what is computer security, what are the different kinds of threats which occur to the computer security or to the computers, how do we control these threats, how do we ensure that the systems remain secure, and also we will try to see who are the different kind of people or agencies which may cause potential harm to our systems. So this is a brief overview of today's lecture. Now we begin with our lecture. So basically, security is protection of assets. The three main aspects of security are prevention, that is taking measures that prevent your assets from being damaged, detection, that is take measures that help you to detect when an asset has been damaged, and reaction, that is take measures that allow you to recover your assets from the damage. So any kind of assets are insured through these three mechanisms. That is, first is prevention, that you try and avert a situation where there is a potential for any harm to occur to your assets. If the harm has already occurred, then you need to see what is the extent of the damage that has been caused, and then you take some remedial action to overcome this security breach. Now, if we talk about a system, for example, a bank or the traditional asset like money and the asset which is information. These are two different kinds of assets which we need to protect. So, what are the differences in the approach when you are trying to secure a physical asset like a money or a gold and those like information? So, the first difference would be in the size and portability. We all understand that money, when money is stored or when gold is stored, it is of a considerable size. So, it is not easy to take away the cash, huge amount of cash or gold. But information is extremely small and portable. All the resources of a computer system, they can be easily kept. Information worth millions of rupees can easily be taken away in a small pen drive or maybe in a small briefcase. Therefore, securing information becomes more difficult than securing your physical assets. Then the ability to avoid physical contact. Of course, in the traditional banking systems where cash was handled, there is an inadvertent need to physically handle the cash. Whereas in case of information resources, it is simple because information is handled electronically. There is no chance of any kind of physical contact between the information handler and the information resources. So, money can also be transferred through computers using electronic media where physical contact is not maintained. Then we come to value of assets. Now, value of assets in case of gold or cash is very high, but in case of information, the value may vary. There are certain information which is available in the public domain, so they are of not a significant value, but then there is some information which is highly sensitive, highly critical, which may be of immense value. For instance, let us take the example of the sales data or some kind of sales strategy which a company is making for the future. If this kind of information reaches the competitors, it can affect the business strategy and the business growth of a company, and which can amount to a great deal of loss for the company. Therefore, the value of the information assets can be from negligible to very, very high. Thus, we will see how we need to secure our computer systems in order to protect the information and the other resources which are there in the computer system. Now, basically, what is computer security? Computer security refers to the techniques for ensuring that data stored in a computer cannot be read or compromised by any individual without authorization. The protection afforded to an automated information system in order to attain the applicable objectives of preserving the integrity, availability and confidentiality of information system resources includes hardware, software, information, data, firmware, telecommunication, etc. So, basically, most computer systems, they ensure the security by using encryption, passwords, and there are other ways also in which the weaknesses are avoided, they are protected from being exploited. Now, basically, computer security incorporates three goals. Now, these three goals are confidentiality, integrity and availability. As you can see in the diagram, these three goals, when achieved at the same time, create a secure system. But it is interesting to note at the same time that these are conflicting goals. That is, if you achieve one, you tend to lose the other two. Or if you achieve integrity, it will be difficult for you to maintain the availability and confidentiality of your data. So, first thing that we see is confidentiality. Now, basically confidentiality refers to secrecy or privacy. That is, you are allowing only authorized people to see or to view or to change your data. So, the availability of data is maintained, but the confidentiality is to be secured. So, this is the goal of confidentiality is very difficult to ensure, but it is easy to assess because it is binary in nature, whether a system is secure or it is not, whether you allow a user to see the data or you don't allow. So, confidentiality is maintained by access control. That is, you can specify who can access what in your data or in your computer system. Now, how do we ensure the identity of a user? For this, you need to use identification and authentication. Identification and authentication is achieved using different techniques like password protection and other techniques. Now, when we talk about confidentiality, we talk about data confidentiality and privacy. Confidentiality assures that the confidential information is not disclosed to unauthorized individuals, and privacy assures that individual control or influence what information may be collected or stored. Next, we come to integrity. Integrity means that the assets can be modified only by authorized parties or only in authorized ways. That is, we will see who or what can access which resources. Integrity is much difficult to measure than confidentiality because integrity is contextual. Integrity means so many things. It could mean preciseness, if the data can be modified or not, who can modify the data, whether the data is read-only or it can be modified, to what extent the data can be modified, the files are read-only files, they can be edited, what fields of a file can be edited. Therefore, integrity is very difficult to assess. So, by integrity we mean that only authorized people will be allowed to make any kind of changes, that is read, write or edit the data which is available in the system, data as well as the other components of the system. When we talk about integrity, we mean data integrity and system integrity. So, data integrity assures that the information and programs are changed only in a specified and authorized manner, and system integrity assures that a system performs its operations in an unimpaired manner. That is, what we are trying here is that data integrity will mean that no unauthorized person can come and modify the data, can make any changes, addition, deletion or modification to the data. And system integrity means that the state of the system will remain correct, it will remain unchanged as it is. In case of software, we need to see that the software does not get changed, it does not get modified. Whatever it is supposed to do, it should do only that much. The functions of the software should neither be minimized nor it should be extended. This is integrity. The next goal is availability. Availability basically is the opposite of denial of service. Availability means that the data and the system should be available to all users, to all authorized users at all points of time. That is, because we are ensuring confidentiality, it should not hamper the data needs of authorized people in having an access to the data or to the system. So, denial of service availability could be affected due to various reasons. For example, in case of hardware, if the hardware is not working properly, then there is a denial of service. Or in case of network, some computers or some malicious programs will flood the server with a large number of messages. Therefore, the server will not be able to respond to any of the user's request. In this case, we say that the availability of the data has been affected, it has been modified. So, we say that a system is available when there is timely response to our request, when the resources are allocated fairly so that all requesters get equal opportunity for resources over others. The service or system involved follows a philosophy of fault tolerance, that is, the hardware and software, they terminate the services in a graceful manner and do not terminate abruptly, leading to loss of information and crashes. The service or the system can be used in the intended manner easily, and there is concurrency control. Concurrency control means that when simultaneous access is occurring, there should not be a deadlock. That is, exclusive rights of access should be given to the various users using specific procedures, specific policies. So, if your system allows concurrent access, it should have mechanisms for deadlock control and concurrency control also. Now, availability again is a very complex and difficult goal to achieve, because the system which we are designing must be fault tolerant. It should be ready and available for servicing all requests of the users at all time. Along with that, it should maintain the other goals. So, what is happening is that you have three goals which are conflicting to each others, but a secure system is the one which achieves all these three objectives at the same time. For example, you need to create a balance among these three goals. This is known as the CIA triad or the CIA security goals. So, if we ensure confidentiality, then you have to disconnect the computer from the internet to increase the confidentiality. But when you disconnect it from the internet, you lose the objective of availability and also you lose the objective of integrity, because you are not able to download or you are not able to keep your system updated. Therefore, when you are getting confidentiality by disconnecting your system from the network, you are losing on the other two, that is integrity and availability. In case you are trying to have integrity of your data, so what you will want is that multiple people should keep checking your data to maintain the data in an integrated state at all times. But when you are allowing multiple users to look at your data, of course you are losing on the goal of confidentiality, because there are multiple people who can access your data. At the same time, you are also losing on availability, because once the data which is being read or written by any of the users, it will become unavailable for the other users. Therefore, if you achieve integrity, you tend to lose on confidentiality and availability of data. Thus, the role of the designer is such that he should ensure that these three conflicting goals should be achieved at the same time in order to have a secure system. Along with these three goals, that is confidentiality, integrity and availability, we have two more goals, that is authentication, accountability, and accountability also leads to non-repudiation. Authenticity implies that the property of being genuine and being able to be verified and trusted. Confident in the validity of a transmission or a message or its originator. Accountability means that the requirement for actions of an entity to be traced uniquely to that individual and to support non-repudiation, defense or fault isolation. And non-repudiation means that the sender or the receiver cannot deny a transmitted message. So, non-repudiation can be implemented using digital signatures. So, what we are saying is that confidentiality, integrity and availability are our primary objectives. Along with this, the system should also ensure accountability of the users. That is, if any user or any system is giving any message or command or accessing any of the system's resources, then they should be held accountable for it. They cannot deny that they have used or they have accessed a particular resource of the computer system. This means accountability and non-repudiation. And authentication or authenticity means that any person who is using any of the resources is genuine, is the intended authorized user for that. Therefore, the 6 goals of security becomes confidentiality, integrity, availability, authentication, accountability and non-repudiation. Now, when you talk about security, there are a few principles which are considered generally. The first principle is the principle of easiest penetration. That is, an intruder must be expected to use any available means of penetration. The penetration may not necessarily be by the most obvious, nor is it necessarily the one against which the most solid defense has been installed. Now, what does this principle mean? That the people who are designing the security of a system should expect the attack to occur from any source. For example, if we are trying to secure a room and we build a very strong wall or a very strong door locks are there, but then the penetration may not be from the door, the thieves may not come through the door. We need to secure all the windows, any kind of exit from the room. Similarly, in case of computer security, the system should ensure that all aspects of the system are secured. If sometimes it is said that if a manager thinks that this attacker may not think like this, then this is a very wrong approach, because it is the principle of easiest penetration which may not be the most obvious for us. The point here is that the security designers should think like an attacker or should think like a person who is trying to harm the system. Now we come to some important terms which we use in the context of computer security. So the first term that we use is the adversary. Adversary is an entity that attacks the system, whoever attacks the system. It could be a person, a human being, or it could be another system. Attack is an assault on the system security that derives from an intelligent threat. It is an intelligent act, that is a deliberate attempt to evade security services and violate the security policies. Then countermeasure is an action or a device, a method or a procedure that reduces a threat, a vulnerability or an attack by eliminating or preventing it by reducing the harm it can cause. A risk is an expectation of loss expressed as the probability that a particular threat will exploit a particular vulnerability. And security policy means a set of rules and practices that specify how a system provides security services to protect the sensitive data and critical system resources. Then also we have some more terms like system resources, which are the assets As already said, system resources could be hardware, software, network, communication, all these, programs, people. Threat is a potential for violation of security, a possible danger that might exploit a vulnerability. A vulnerability is basically a weakness in the system which can be affected by a threat. So, a threat actually it uses the vulnerable point and it causes the attack. Then control is a protective measure which is used, that is a device or a procedure or a technique that removes or reduces a vulnerability. Now, this diagram shows the relationship between the different securities. We have owners who wish to minimize the risks, and because of that they impose some counter measures. The owners, they have some assets which have some value, but the assets they are susceptible to some threat agents who wish to abuse or cause damage to the assets. The threat agents, they pose threats, and the countermeasures, they will try and reduce the risk. The threats will increase the risk, the countermeasures will try to reduce the risks. Therefore, all these elements are related to each other. A very good example is shown here in the diagram, which shows how a threat, a control and a vulnerability are related to each other. Now, in this diagram, we are seeing that there is water and the water has been stopped by a wall, and then there is a man. The man is the asset who needs to be protected. The water is the threat. Now, there is threat to the asset, that is to the man, by the water, because if the water moves above the level of the wall, the man can get wet. If the water remains in the wall can break due to the pressure, and again the man can get drowned because of that. Also, there is a vulnerability in the system, that is a crack in the wall. So, the water can always come out of the crack and again the man can be wet. But the man is stopping the water from coming inside by using his finger. So, this is called control. Therefore, a threat is being blocked by the control of a vulnerability. To devise control, we must know as much about threats as possible. So, in this case, we have seen how threats, vulnerabilities and control are related to each other. Thank you. discussing about the relationship between threats, vulnerabilities and controls. Now we will talk about the different kinds of threats which are posed to any kind of computer systems. So the first type of threat that we discuss is interception. Interception basically means that an unauthorized party, which could be a human being or another computer system, can gain access to an asset. So interception is an attack on confidentiality of the data. Interruption means that an asset becomes lost, damaged, unavailable or unusable. This is an attack on availability. Modification means that an unauthorized party changes the state of an asset. So this is an attack on the integrity. And fabrication means that an unauthorized party counterfeits an asset, that is an attack on the authenticity. These diagrams here, they represent the four types of security threats that we have discussed. So the first is interruption, where we see that the information source is being interrupted. Information is being interrupted from the source to the destination by any kind of unauthorized person or unauthorized process or unauthorized system. In case of interception, we see that while the information is being transmitted from the source to the destination, in between some middleman or a process or a machine is trying to read it, that is intercepted in between. Therefore, this will be an attack on the confidentiality of the system. In case of modification, it is not just interception, but also the change is being done in the information which is being transmitted. And in case of fabrication, the source is not sending any information to the destination. In fact, the middleman or an unauthorized person is fabricating some data, is creating counterfeit objects or counterfeit information, and it is putting it to the destination. Therefore, all these four, that is interception, interruption, fabrication and modification, are affecting the availability, they are affecting the integrity, the confidentiality and the authenticity of the data that is being transmitted through the security system. Now we will see how each of these, as an example, how each of these affects the system. So an example of interruption could be destruction of a piece of hardware like say hard disk, or cutting of a communication line, or disabling of the file management system. Interception could be wiretapping or illicit copy of files or programs. Modification could be changing the values in data files, altering a program so that it performs differently, or modifying the content of messages being transmitted in a network. And fabrication means insertion of spurious messages in a network or adding of records in a file. So all these are security threats. Now they are transmitted in the form of vulnerabilities. When we talk about vulnerabilities, we mean the weaknesses which are there in the system. So vulnerabilities could be different for the different components of the system. Like for hardware, you have two types of vulnerabilities, interruption and interception. For software, we have interruption, interception and modification. And for data, we have all the four types, that is interruption, interception, modification and fabrication. So now what are the threats to the hardware? Hardware is posed to all kinds of threats, ranging from interruption to interception to machinicide, that is involuntary machine slaughter, that is hardwares could be damaged accidentally without any intention to do so. Then there is, you can add a device, change the device, remove it, intercept the traffic to the hardware or flood the traffic with no longer function. Then there is two more phenomena that is snooping and wiretapping. Snooping means that you are trying to move around and see the weak points in the network, and wherever you find that there is unprotected LAN, a person tries to get inside. This is a kind of spying activity. Wiretapping also means that while the data is being traveled through a network, the security or the unsecure points are being identified and it is being exploited by the threat. Hardware could be damaged using accidental ways also. There could be hardware thefts, people could spill things on the hardware, or there could be a power surge and the hardware could get burned. So, all these types of vulnerabilities are present in case of hardware. Interception may also occur in the case of hardware because another devices may be added to the hardware, which may hamper the working of the already installed devices. In case of software, a software is posed to different kinds of threats like interruption. Interruption means there is deletion in case of software. Deletion means that the software is easy to delete and it could be done by mistake, and this can be prevented using configuration management software. In all our lives, we have all come across situations where we have accidentally deleted a few files from different softwares. That kind of threat is a malign threat because it is not very dangerous, it is happening only accidentally. But then there could be serious threats where portions of softwares are deleted which render the software non-functional. We all know that these are binary files, and even if a small bit of the file changes, the software becomes unfunctional. Sometimes modifications may occur in softwares. These modifications could be of two types. That is, a software is doing something which it is not intended to do. That is, it has increased its functionality. Such type of changes will be very difficult to find out because this is outside the purview of the user or outside the purview of the software designer. Sometimes the softwares are modified so that they are not doing what they are supposed to do, or maybe one or two functions of the software have been reduced. Even these changes are very subtle changes and which may escape the eye of the software designer or the programmer who is using the software. Then the software could also suffer from a theft vulnerability. Theft means piracy. We all understand the issue of licensing. That is, the software companies who work on softwares, they have a goal of selling the software and making profits through the licenses. But many a times we see that the softwares are sold unauthenticated and unlicensed, because of which this leads to software piracy and theft. A large volume of revenues of the software companies are lost each year due to software piracy. This is similar to the piracy in the music industry, which is commonly happening. So, a software in totality suffers from modification or from deletion and from theft. The data can also suffer from different types of vulnerabilities. The first vulnerability is interruption. That is, the data is deleted. It is important to understand here that the software and hardware are less vulnerable than the data, because hardware are physical components of the computer which may not be as vulnerable and which are rather protected through various physical checks. Software also, even if it is intercepted on a network, because it is written in a language which is intelligible only by software programmers or trained people, it may be of no use for a layman. But data, if it is intercepted, can easily be understood by any layman, and he can use or exploit this data to make money or for other things. So, data can be intercepted. Intercepted means while the data is being transferred, it can be altered, it can be changed, it can be interrupted or deleted. Certain files of data are deleted. Then data can be modified, which means that certain portions of the files are changed or they are modified. For example, if the sales figures of a company get into the hands of some malicious agents and they change those figures, then it can cost a lot to the company. And there could also be fabrication, like some spurious files may be added or some spurious figures may be added to an existing file. Therefore, a data is also susceptible to all four kinds of threats, that is interception, interruption, modification and fabrication. Now, besides hardware, software and data, other components of the computer system are also susceptible to vulnerabilities. For example, the computer networks. Networks are susceptible to all kinds of vulnerabilities, both physical damage and also other types of damages like interception. Because networks are controlled remotely, therefore they can easily be damaged. A server can be flooded with spurious messages and hence rendered out of service. It will not process any further request. Then access control also can be a problem, like for example stealing of computer time or denial of service. Stealing of computer time may refer to, for example, the employees in a company, they are using the computers for their own goals. That is, during the time when the computer systems should be used for the work of the company or of the organization, the employees are using it for their personal purposes. This type of threat may not pose a serious danger, but it leads to stealing of computer time, and which may also sometimes lead to denial of those resources to the authorized people who are using it for genuine reasons. Then people may pose a very serious threat to the company or to the security. If you have some disgruntled employees who are not satisfied or who had a bad day or who are not happy with the company's policies, they may use the system for their advantage. Or sometimes if there are people in the company who know all the details of the company, there is only a single person who knows all about it, and that person leaves the company and goes along with all the knowledge that he or she has, it can prove to be a threat to the functioning of the company. Therefore, we can see that there are a large number of threats to all the components of the computer system. There are threats to data, to hardware, to software and to the other types of assets of the system, including the people. Thus, it is important to secure all these aspects: hardware, software, people as well as data, access control, networks, storage media from all kinds of attacks, all kinds of damage and harms. Now, a malicious intended person or system needs three things to pose an attack. They should have three things. First is method, that is, they should have the skills, knowledge, tools and other things with which to be able to pull out the attack. They need an opportunity, that is the time and access to accomplish the attack, and the motive, that is a reason to want to perform this attack against the system. So, if the attacker has a method, he has the opportunity and he has the motive, then all these three put together will certainly encourage an attacker to pose a attack or to cause a damage to the system. Now, who are the people who will pose such kind of attacks or who will do such kind of attacks? They are usually they come under the purview of criminals. They are said computer criminals. So, what is a computer crime basically? A computer crime is any activity which is considered as illegal in the eyes of law, which involves computers or the use of computers and technology. Now, since the technology has grown at a very fast speed, the laws have taken their time to evolve. Still, there are a lot of mechanisms in place to control computer crimes. First, we should see what are the different categories of people who pose threats to the computer systems. The first type of people or computer criminals, they are known as amateurs. The maximum number of computer crime is carried off by the amateurs. Amateurs are ordinary people who come across some vulnerabilities of the system and they try and exploit this kind of vulnerability in the system. Amateurs have committed most of the computer crimes which are reported till date. Then the next category of computer crimes are crackers or malicious hackers. Now, system crackers, they are often high school or university students who attempt to access computing facilities for which they have not been authorized. Others attack for curiosity, personal gain, or just out of fun. Now, there is a difference between crackers and hackers. Crackers are generally people who have a malicious intent, whereas hackers are people who have a non-malicious intent.
Sorry ma'am, sorry to disturb you over here. We have a caller and let's welcome the caller and let's try to know what question he has. Hello? 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 Hello?
Hello ma'am?
Yes, please tell your name and ask.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes ma'am, my name is Pawan Giri. I am calling from Varanasi.
Yes, Pawan, what is
Ma'am,
your question?
I have a question.
Yes, please ask.
Madam, first off, I thank you for giving such a wonderful lecture.
Thank you, Pawan. Thank you so very much. Now, what is your question?
Hello, ma'am?
Yes, please ask your question. Thank you for your
Yes,
compliment.
my question is, I want to know about ransomware attack and how I will protect from us. We will protect from ransomware attack.
Please repeat your question once again. Hello? Hello? He just wanted to know how he can protect his computer from the viruses.
Okay. Now, in order to protect any system from viruses, you need to have the proper antivirus systems installed, antivirus softwares installed onto your system. Just installing the antivirus may not be sufficient. You need to keep a regular update of the antiviruses. The updates are available online. You have a wide range of antiviruses available in the market. Your choice will depend on the need of your system and the way you are using your system, what are the different activities that you are performing with the system, whether your activity is more related to the internet, so you will need more internet security. If it is not, if you are not connected much to the network, then it is a different kind of setup. If your system is connected to a local area, then you need a different kind of antivirus. So, a wide variety of antiviruses are available in the marketplace. So, you have to make a choice depending on your objectives, your security goals, and also ensure that you regularly keep the antiviruses updated in your system. I hope that should be.
Yes, we believe that he got the answer. And ma'am, we were talking about the hackers and the crackers. Please try to elaborate once again the difference.
So, we will continue with our topic, that is, we were talking about the different types of computer criminals, that is hackers and crackers. So, we say that system crackers, they make an attempt to access the computing facilities for which they have not been authorized. And hackers are those people who have a non-malicious intent. They have a common profile and they have a motivation for there is no motivation for these attackers. So they just enjoy the chaos or the loss or the harm which they cause to the system. Then the serious type of attackers are the career criminals. These are the professionals who make a career out of posing threats to computer system. They are very talented, they are extremely well versed with the vulnerabilities that are crept into the different components of the system, and they cause a wide and terrible damage to the computer systems. It is important to understand that in today's scenario, these criminals, they will work for financial gains. Therefore, their motive is not just enjoyment or causing harm to a system or just curiosity, but they have intentions of making money. For example, they will steal the credit card details and they will have economic losses. They can transfer money from one account to the other and all these things. Then the fourth type of people, this is a latest type of people who have come as computer criminals. These are the terrorists. We all understand what terrorism is. Now, terrorists are also using the computer security breaches for three purposes. First is for vicious propaganda. They are using the information technology, internet and networking for propagating wrong messages for spreading rumors, for creating chaos and havoc in the people. Then they are also using the computer systems for maligning the people's images, for desurfacing the websites, for posting wrong messages on the internet, and also a large number of terrorist attacks are controlled and motivated by the use of computer and information technology. So these four types of people range from amateurs to computer criminals to career criminals to terrorists who use the vulnerabilities in the system to harm the computer system. Now, of course, when we have so many vulnerabilities and threats to the system, we also need to develop a proper system for defense. So we can deal with these vulnerabilities or these harms in several ways. So there are 5 stages to our strategy for mitigating all these kinds of damages. The first strategy is prevention, that is, you block the attack or you close the vulnerability. Second is deter it, that is making the attack harder but not impossible. The third is deflect it by making another target more attractive or making the current target less attractive to the attacker. In case the attack has already taken place, in spite of prevention, deterrence and deflection, we need to detect the attack, we need to detect what harm has taken place, what is the effect of the attack, and finally we need to recover from the effects of the attack. If, for example, we take the example of a car. Now our car is an asset. Now we need to make sure that all these strategies are ensured for protection of our car. So, for example, if we need to restore the car in a well-logged garage, so that is how we are trying to deter it. If you use a club, that means you are trying to deflect the attacker from stealing the car. But still, if the car is being stolen, then you put in all the cameras and you detect how the theft has taken place. And finally, after the theft has taken place, you go to the insurance company to recover from the losses that have occurred due to the loss of your car. So in case of computers also, we use a multi-pronged approach for reducing or creating a strong defense against all these types of attack. This diagram shows here how intrusion attempts take place. we try a preemption strategy, that is, we try to stop the intrusion before it is taking place. Then we have some ways of external deterrence, that is trying to stop the attacker or trying to stop the threat before it reaches the system. If it still penetrates into the system, we have some internal mechanisms or internal prevention strategies which try to control it. If those also fail, then we have the harm has of course taken place. So we have some mechanisms of detecting, that is, there is some change in the data or the behavior of the programs, and we try to create a response. For example, an alarm bell is rung or the system resources, they are being changed, they are also indicating that some change has taken place. So we try to say that we have multiple stages for protecting our devices, for protecting our computer systems. So we have control mechanisms also, like in first case, the first control mechanism is encryption. Encryption basically relates to the concept where you convert the data, which is known as the plain text, into a coded form which is known as the ciphertext. So the ciphertext becomes unintelligible or cannot be understood by anybody. Even if somebody intercepts the message, the data will remain of no use for the person because it is not in its original form, but it is in its cipher form or it is in its coded form. When this ciphertext reaches the destination, it is converted back into plain text. So this process of converting the plain text into ciphertext is known as encryption, and at the destination, when the ciphertext is converted into plain text, it is known as decryption. However, it is important to understand that the process of encryption should be used wisely, because if it is a poor encryption, it is advisable to have no encryption at all, because a poor encryption means that it can be easily understood or the code can easily be broken by any person, and it will give an unnecessary feeling to the user that there is a security overhead in the system. Therefore, encryption should be used more wisely than other forms of control. Then we also have some other forms of control, like software program controls are there. We have programs control which include internal program controls, operating system and network enforced controls, and independent control programs. So software controls are also used, which are available, and hardware controls are used. Hardware controls means that you have physical ways of controlling the threads, then you have biometrics which allow access to the resources, then you have several other types of controls. So we shall be continuing on this topic of security in the next lecture. Thank you.
With this note, thank you, ma'am. Thank you so very much for giving us a precious session. Dear friends, as Dr. Pavitra Bharadwaj herself said, that we would be continuing further from the point where we left. But if you have any query or if you have any suggestions, then do write to us at info.cec@nic.in. If you write to us, if you post your questions, we will try to take your questions when next time Dr. Pavitra Bharadwaj visits our studio. Till then, take care. Goodbye. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so very much.